Hey everybody, welcome to today's show. My name is Jonathan, joined by three of my friends and co-workers here at Masters Fantasy, CEO, owner, John Beast, the Doc, Alec. What's up, guys?
What's up?
How you doing, my man?
Real good, man. We got a real good show in line for you guys today. Before we do Dynasty Football, the best, absolute best way to play fantasy football. I know you guys all agree with that. Masters Fantasy Football Leagues, we have over 600 Dynasty Leagues. We've never folded a single one. Also, real quick, before we get started, if you could hit that like and subscribe button to come be a part of the Masters family with us. Let's jump right into this, though. We're doing sells for rebuilding teams on Dynasty. Dynasty teams, guys, if you're a rebuilding team, these are guys that we think you should sell and get rid of right now. Who wants to go first?
I can kick us off. So a guy who I think, if you're a rebuilding team and you've got him on your roster, definitely a good time to move him. That Seahawks receiver Tyler Lockett, which what's funny, it's probably going to be a little harder to sell him than you think, but he was wide receiver 8 overall in PPR leagues, which you think you'd be able to sell a wide receiver 1 pretty easily.
Do you know where DK ended?
Wide receiver 7. How about that? Wide receiver 7 and 8, DK and Tyler Lockett.
And that's with them doing basically nothing
at
the rest of
I
the
know,
second half of the year.
It's crazy, and that's why it's going to be a little hard to sell him, especially Tyler Lockett, but they both just kind of didn't do much in the last stretch of the year. But Tyler Lockett's 28, going to be 29. Maybe got 2 more good years, but I just think if you've got him and you're trying to rebuild, definitely a good player to move on to. Maybe you can get a first for him, or just some other younger receivers, younger players who can help you more in Dynasty.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know if you peeked over at my sheet.
Did you have it done?
I had Tyler Lockett written down too.
Unreal.
He finished at 8, but I mean he had that 50-point game.
Oh yeah,
that
exactly.
40-point game.
Yeah.
If you take those away, I had 5 of his last 9 games. He didn't even crack double digits. It's just a guy I'm concerned about. I'd sell him now. I do think as the future there goes. Metcalf, it's the Metcalf show.
100%.
He's just going to be a second, a side act. If you can sell him as a wide receiver 1, linked up with Russell Wilson, I agree. I think you do that now.
Yeah, 100%.
And just the same theme as in the last episode. I'd be looking to move him for 2022 picks. A first round pick in 2022 is worth just as much as a first round pick in 2021 or 2023. But if you go for a pick that's a year later, you can get a better pick.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, I like that. I'd actually even go look for like the Russell Wilson owner.
Yeah.
In your league and try to get a 2022 first round pick out of them.
Yeah. If you're a rebuilding team, look for a winning team.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
To give them
That's
depth.
the key.
Because, not to spoil anything, but I'm sure we're going to do this same type of show for contenders. I think he could be a buy for a contender. So, look for a contending team. That's who's going to pay the most for him. Because, to think you could get a guy who finished as wide receiver 8 relatively cheap, kind of crazy. But, definitely a good sell if you're rebuilding.
Yeah, I agree with that. Should I fire my takeoff?
Go ahead.
I'm going to sell Christian McCaffrey if I'm rebuilding. And I know that seems a little ridiculous because, he's been the number 1 running back in fantasy for however many years before having all those injuries this year. The injuries are a thing that worry me, though, just because, it's the same thing I said about Derrick Henry. It's why I thought he wouldn't be great long term. It's the same thing that has me concerned about Christian McCaffrey. When you get so many touches, just an absurd amount of touches every single year, you're bound to break down. That's just the way it happens. And add on to that fact that you're not competing, and this is still Christian McCaffrey, you can get an absolute haul for him. So I know it would probably be very difficult to pull the trigger and trade away your best player. And you probably don't even have him if you stink bad enough to rebuild. That's a different discussion. I think you can go get, we've seen all kinds of hauls for McCaffrey all year, the last couple of years that are just absolutely ridiculous. And I think that would be a huge thing to do to jumpstart your rebuild. Like I said, it would be hard to do, but you could get picks and solid players in return for him. And realistically, I don't know if we ever see Christian McCaffrey. I don't know what to cap it off at. I don't think we're going to see the old Christian McCaffrey from here on out. I really don't. And I think that's part of, and I've said it before too, I think the Panthers are going to kind of dial back his usage for this reason, because he makes their team better, But if they're giving him 400 touches a year, I mean, he's got no shot to make it if they want to like get into the playoffs and all that stuff. So that's my take.
Yeah, I think it's a great take. I mean, if you're rebuilding and have McCaffrey. I actually have another question along those lines, though.
Okay.
Like, the running back number used to be 30. Like when guys would fall off. But I swear the last couple of years, I've seen that trend.
Yeah,
it's like
It's like 25, 26 to get rid of them. Like, and I'm even looking at some of the Dynasty Rankings, Jonathan Taylor, some of these young guys, they've already leapfrogged Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara. Like, what happened to those 25, from 25 to 30? That's when you should have an elite runner, like Zeke, Kamara. These guys should be elite for the next 4 or 5 years. Just seems like the sell now is.
Yeah.
I mean, not this year, but 2019, AP was a top 15 back. But you cut it however you want.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's
he was in 2018 too for the Washington Redskins. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember watching him crank off that 90-yard run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
James White, that's another player that, these guys, these older guys,
It just seems like it's a new trend, and for me, like, I'm looking at some of these 25, 26-year-olds, like, okay, you guys want to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like part of it's money too, because I feel like guys like, we've seen McCaffrey, Mixon, Dalvin got paid, right? He
Yeah.
ended up getting paid.
And Kamara
Zeke,
too, right before the
yeah, all 5 of those guys got paid. But I mean, if you take it a step back, all these running backs that got paid before, they're all basically, like Todd Gurley, he might not even be in the league next year.
Yeah,
Who knows?
Crazy.
I mean, it moves quick with running backs, and if things continue to trend this way for Christian McCaffrey, I mean, it could be quick for him too. He's got a lot, he's got such a wide skill set. I don't think that would be the case. You could use him in so many different ways, but all these guys are getting these big contracts, and if they start not being on the field or if they start getting banged up, I mean, there's all these loopholes in these contracts so that these teams move out real quick. You saw it happen to Gurley. He got paid in a year later he was gone?
I think some of that is like it's the Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell effect.
Yeah, Bell too.
That we're all seeing.
Yep.
Le'Veon Bell, though, he never took those big hits. He took
so
a year
patient.
off.
Yeah.
He was the most. I gotta tell you, Le'Veon Bell should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He was for 3 or 4 years there. He was the best back I ever saw.
Which I was still scratching my head this weekend. I started him in all my weekly lineups. Like,
And Darrell Williams got all the
First
touches.
play of the
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
It's always sad when I watched Le'Veon Bell take carries and I thought, man, he looks old. It made me sad, kind of, even though he played for the Steelers and I didn't want to see him succeed. It was hard to watch because there's another great one that's probably not going to be great ever
I
again.
gotta tell you, oh man, he was good.
Yeah, it's
And
me. Go ahead.
And I can remember I sent you that text when we were watching Patrick Mahomes run, and I said he looks like Le'Veon Bell. He would stop, he would not take that hit, and next thing he went, he was 17 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
Le'Veon was really good at that.
Yeah. I guess while we're on the topic of older running backs who, got that big paycheck and you can sell high right now, another name is Derrick Henry. I mean, I think I was a year too early last year when I recommended selling high, and he had another great year, but he's 26 now, and we talked, what age is it? It's 26, 27. That's when most of them. Now, is Adrian Peterson an exception? Yes, and there's exceptions out there.
Frank Gore.
Derrick Henry could be another exception, but more often than not, around 27, these elite backs start to fall off. I think you could still get a tremendous haul for Derrick Henry, get some younger backs and some picks. I think now's the time to sell if you're rebuilding.
Yeah, I agree. And I hate to put this on anybody. I feel like he's due for an injury.
Yeah.
And I said that about McCaffrey.
Right.
We go back and listen. 2 years in a row and finished number 1 at running back. I just didn't see it happening for a 3rd year.
Right.
And I hate to put that on him, but I mean the amount of punishment he takes. I'd be really concerned about seeing Derrick Henry spend some time on a sideline.
Yeah, he's been the best pure running back the last 2 years, but man, they just run him into the ground. I mean, obviously, you hate to say it, but there comes a point where you just have so many touches, you're bound to break down. That's just how it works. And I mean, that's the whole reason I was saying sell him last offseason. I was a year early too because he came out and ran for 2,000 yards, but it's the same idea. They continue to run him into the ground. Eventually, it's going to cost you, and I think now's as good a time as any off a 2,000-yard season to trade him.
Absolutely. And I just want to ask the doc a question, just kind of running through my head. Like, an injury on someone the size of Derrick Henry. Like, would that be harder for him to come back from that?
I mean, it depends what kind of injury it is. Like, you know, not to switch sports completely, but I know like Zion, he's so big, like 285, and he's got bad knees, so obviously all the jumping and pounding,
Right.
it's going to be a little tougher for him than it were if Alec was jumping and yeah, like
Zion's bigger than me?
a little bit. So I mean, yeah, depending on the injury, it could be something that would hamper him a little more than someone else in the NFL, like a guy like Hollywood Brown who weighs like, I don't know, 150 pounds soaking wet.
More my speed.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, not speed, but more my
Well,
size.
yeah. So yeah.
I want to give JK some props here. Last year, if you go back to the very first podcast that we did, JK was all over Derrick Henry 2 years ago, and I was not. And you were 100% on the money with that one. You know,
Good job.
you're welcome, Jonathan. It was hard to give you credit for that, but you had that.
Does a raise come with being that spot on?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways,
Anyway.
Trying for it.
I like to top my own horn here a little bit and go back to the Dynasty Sorcerer Series because that's coming up. There's going to be another episode on that. There's going to be talking about late round picks and how to extract value out of them. But right here, when you're talking about rebuilding teams and trade targets or sell targets, everybody's going to be saying, hey, you're a rebuilding team. You want to get rid of your Julio Jones. You want to get your older players. You know, that's what you're going to hear. Well, and you're going to be trading those players. You'll be looking to trade them to contending teams, but you're missing half the teams, and you look at the other side of the coin. Teams that are rebuilding are looking to get younger players, and you want to trade with them too. Now you're not going to be able to trade them a Julio Jones, but you know half the younger players they just wash out.
Yeah.
They just wash out. But you want to get value for them now while you can, as opposed to waiting.
Yeah.
The reason I asked earlier which episode was coming out, the buy or the sell, because my sell is Michael Pittman.
No way.
He's an older wide receiver coming out. I don't think he's that good. I think he's it's not. He's. I'm not saying he's bad. I say he's an average player. He's a Mike Williams type player, and I think you could drag a first round pick out of him. Maybe a late first round next year. Maybe a first round for 20. You know, again, I was going. It's easier to get the 2022 picks. Get a first round pick for 2022, and just to me, he just seems like another guy. Maybe he's a good guy, but he's still just another guy. And I don't know who he's attached to. That's why I like Laviska Shenault. I know who he's going to be attached to.
What about your guy Carson Wentz, though? Carson Wentz.
I like Carson Wentz. You bring Carson Wentz over, he's going to turn T.Y. Hilton into a star.
The quarterback's going to upgrade. That's almost a guarantee. I mean, Phillip Rivers could throw the ball like 20 yards.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Phillip Rivers is a pretty good wide quarterback.
He's a great quarterback. But now, I mean, you know.
T.Y. Hilton's on contract here. He may be moving on.
My point is okay, and maybe I'm wrong on the player, but this
I
is
love the philosophy. It's all about selling the guys
philosophy.
who show promise early on, but you're not sold on that.
I'm not sold on him.
And that's, for me, it was always James Robinson. I know you love James Robinson, but exact same philosophy. It's just different viewpoints on the player, but the philosophy, 100% true.
But Michael Pittman, he gives you advantage to trade to the 3-12,
Right.
the 3-12, the
Exactly.
3-10 teams, or the 4-7
And I
teams.
love using that. Yeah, you got the young players who you don't fully believe in, but they did enough that somebody out there thinks Michael Pittman's the next sure thing,
Right.
then you flip them to that guy.
Yeah,
There you go.
I made a trade in a Dynasty League. I gave Bryan Edwards to someone after the one decent week he had this season. And I just sold him on the fact that he's a rookie and he played good this week.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm trying to point, that you can also trade with other young teams, but you have to identify players on your team that you don't like.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And I'm not saying I'm right. Hey, you know, I could be 100% wrong. I'm just saying I just don't think he is.
I mean, that's fair. He's a USC guy, so the last thing I want to do is have to defend him going forward, so I'm just not going to. But honestly, your idea makes me think of a lot of other rookies in this draft that, you know, maybe carry a little bit of weight in the name that maybe I'm not super confident in going forward. I mean, just hearing you talk, Jerry Jeudy popped into my head. And as good as he was in college, you know, Blitnikoff winner, you know, he was the top dog on a receiving room full of Waddle and Devontae Smith, and and Henry Ruggs, and
I had Judy. He's not on my list, but I was thinking about putting him there.
Yeah.
I found somebody else that
I tell you what, his name's going to carry a lot of weight despite having a shaky season. Cortland Sutton's coming back next year, and I still don't like their quarterback situation. So overall, I feel like that's one guy that fits into your mold a little bit there. If I had him, I'd be.
Yeah, with even more name value with Judy.
Yeah.
And that's a guy, I mean, last year it was wide open for him.
I gotta let the dog in. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, then another guy I had written down here, it's an older running back, David Johnson.
Yeah.
I think he finished the season with like a 28-point game, a 29-point
So
game.
he actually did come on.
They started dumping him off the ball a lot, right?
He did, but you know,
He knocked me off out of a playoff matchup. I was going up against him.
Right, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
And I was actually shocked at his stats. I mean, double digits. I mean, minus the little middle of the season that he missed. That scored double digits in like 7-8 games. Had a really strong finish to the season.
Mm-hmm.
You can find a contender and maybe get a second-round pick for
Yeah.
him. Even if that's a second-round pick in 2022, I think he'd pull that trigger immediately. The questions at quarterback with Deshaun Watson. I mean, his durability. For me, I mean, you sell him now, why you can get anything out of David Johnson.
Yeah, I like that.
I let somebody put a dog in a video. It makes it better.
Yeah.
There's
Like
Gator.
the subscribers just multiply.
Yeah, multiply. Hit the subscribe button now.
Exponential growth. Yeah.
Her name's Annabelle. We've nicknamed her Annigator because she will bite you.
Oh yeah. Oh, she will. Gosh, I like that though a lot. And just thinking about, I feel like Watson's done in Houston, right?
Feels like it.
As much as it seems like they can't get rid of him, I mean, I feel like he's gonna kind of force their hand. And I can't even imagine having David Johnson on a Texans team with no Deshaun Watson. I don't even know what that would look like. So,
And I do think
I'm with you.
do a contender. You know, you show us stats from last season. Second rounder, it's possible.
yeah, fire it off while Watson's still a Texan.
Absolutely. Why he's still a Texan? Do it now. I agree. Yeah.
I like that. Do you have a second one? Did you give a
I
second
think I
one?
said, so I said Tyler Lockett and then Derrick Henry.
Oh yeah, I got a second one. Did you go?
I've not given my second one yet.
Save
Got
it
the
for
same
sports.
theory.
Yeah.
Get rid of them
Yeah.
while they got value.
Mm-hmm.
And I like this guy a lot. I think he's a winner. I think he's going to help his team. But Tua,
Tua
guy.
Tungavailoa.
Yeah, that's the
There
one.
you go.
You know, when you're looking at quarterbacks, when I'm looking at quarterbacks, I'm looking for the cheat code, the Konami code, which is a word I just learned recently. You know,
Yeah.
getting younger here, the Konami code. There's other people talking around me, but if you get Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, that running ability really it gives you more. If you're not that guy, you better be a Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
You better be a Russell Wilson. And if not, I think you're just a guy. You're just a guy. I think you're better off. You're better. You get what you can for him right now because he's never going to go it. I mean, maybe he'll go higher. Maybe he's great. I love the guy. I think he's a winner.
100% agree, and I think you could actually throw Joe Burrow in that same category. Like, Joe Burrow is a great quarterback, but in terms of fantasy, is he ever going to have that, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson type of numbers without, I know he can run a little bit, but he's never going to have huge rushing numbers. And it's like, does the above average passer ever supplant a guy who's a decent passer and a great runner in today's NFL fantasy football world?
It doesn't seem like it, no.
Yeah, so
And not to mention, I mean, since you are rebuilding, pretty much every quarterback on the upper echelon in this draft has that two-way ability. They can run too. Lawrence, Fields, Zach Wilson, all these guys can run. So, I mean, would you rather sell Tua and take a shot at a guy that can run too?
I gotta tell you, the other guy I'd move is Jalen Hurts. If I get a first round pick for him or a second, I think I would just move him because everybody here has watched any of these videos knows I'm a huge Carson Wentz fan, and I still think it's gonna be Wentz.
Yeah.
Honestly, the more I hear from, it seems like Howie Roseman, the GM for the Eagles, still really likes Wentz.
Yeah.
So I'm not even convinced Hurts is going to be the starting quarterback next year.
Yeah. And even
as
if
much as it seemed like a done deal.
Even if they do move on from Wentz, which I don't personally really think they should, I don't think Hurts is the answer either. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And I do think that like all this talent at quarterback we've seen over the last couple of years.
That's crazy.
Like the
really,
fantasy community is doing everything they can to put Tua right in there too.
Yeah.
And when he just seems to be like a step down from them guys. The one thing I do worry about is when I look at that Miami offense, I kind of give all the other rookie quarterbacks a leg up. Burrow, Justin Herbert.
Right.
Look what Kyler Murray with DeAndre Hopkins. Like, he's got Devontae Parker. Really no running game.
Yeah.
I mean, if Miami went out in the first round and drafted a Devontae Smith,
Right.
would that change your opinion on Tua?
I think you'd have to see how he does with that to fully say whether he's going to be a legit quarterback or not. Because, like you said, the weapons weren't great. So I think if they were to add a solid running back, as good as Gaskin was solid for them,
He was.
and Salvon Ahmed was good too. But at the end of the day, this is becoming a passing league. You need more receivers. He had a lot of kind of like Jakeem Grant, Lynn Bowden are more like gadget players. As much as I don't want to put that on them. Devontae Parker was your only guy, and he can't stay healthy. So I think you do need to see him get a weapon like Devontae Smith. And then if he still can't get the job done, then yeah, I think I'd be ready to say he's not in that.
That'd be the only reason I'd be a little hesitant.
Yeah, I
Right.
agree.
Rid of Tua.
Honestly, I have no shares of Tua, and I don't really plan on getting any shares of Tua.
I'm in the same boat. Not to just keep throwing negative things out there about Tua, but
Yeah,
I just
'cause I like Tua.
Yeah, I like him too. And I think he's got a shot at being good. But I just read something the other day where I think even like unnamed Dolphins players are like questioning whether or not he can be a legit starter next year. And I just think that anytime
Right.
your teammates aren't like fully on board with you, I just think that's a little scary.
I mean,
'Cause,
yeah. There was a lot of talk that should they take a quarterback at 3?
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't really think you
Right.
should.
And to
but
me, that's crazy when they just invested in an early first and Tua a
Cardinals
year
did it,
ago.
and it worked out though.
That's
I mean,
true.
that's
Yeah.
a rare
Yeah.
thing, but
Right. That's true.
And that's why I'd probably be looking at one of them wide receivers at 3.
Right.
Which I know
I
is
agree.
early.
I would want to try and make it
But
work.
for me, if I'm a Tua owner, the moment the Dolphins pass at 3 on one of these elite wide receivers, I'm out trying to sell Tua immediately.
Yeah.
I'm not going to wait around another year or another couple of years to see if they're going to upgrade that offense.
I feel like if I was Miami, I would do anything to try and get Deshaun Watson.
There you
Because
go.
Tua is a perfect piece to give to them back. Like they're not going to get any other quarterback as highly sought after as Tua was, who's only going to be going into his second year.
Two was a perfect piece to get Carson Wentz in a trade.
But if I'm Deshaun Watson, I don't want to go to Miami as constructive.
So it's crazy.
Well,
I think,
yeah.
Didn't Watson kind of, at least somebody in Watson's brass, threw out like a Miami Tua trade? They mentioned he.
They do have at least one more first rounder. I think.
Yeah, they got 2 firsts.
And their defense is amazing, so the pressure would be a little bit off Watson. They could use some money in free agency to go get a guy like Allen Robinson.
Or even
There you go.
Juju Smith.
Elite.
Yeah.
That dude's elite, man. I'm
Yeah.
convinced of that.
I feel like
Allen Robinson,
I think I
elite.
said it a few videos ago, but I think he's the most underrated receiver in the
Yeah.
I
league.
think so too.
He
Who
gets
was,
the
his
most-
who was his quarterback in Jacksonville when he had that top 3 finish? Do you guys
Blake
remember?
Bortles. Yeah.
Right. Bortles.
That was back when Blake
Trubisky.
Bortles actually looked like he
Yeah.
would be he looked like a
Yeah.
good quarterback. It blew my mind. All of a sudden, they
To
were
me, when
slinging.
Bortles, Trubisky, like man, I put this guy right up there with Hopkins. What he's
Oh
able
my!
to do.
I feel so stupid. I've been doing fantasy football for 20 years. That's the same Allen Robinson that was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just realized that.
Yeah.
Oh my
That is-
gosh!
He just came back from that injury and
I was
he's
gonna
right
say,
back
yeah.
at the top of the wide receiver echelon.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Matchup proof to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another guy I've been putting in that is Amari Cooper too. I know you guys. I know John, you're not much of a Cooper fan. Hey, I mean, I look at Amari Cooper. It doesn't matter who his quarterback is. The guy
Right.
produces.
Yeah.
I see that little stat with against Jalen Ramsey, which I know was probably a little bit of a fluke.
Yeah.
But he'd shut everybody down. I think Cooper had 10 catches,
Yeah.
200 yards against him.
Mm.
Doesn't matter if it's Andy Dalton, Dak. The guy,
Derek Carr.
Derek Carr, the guy just produces. For
Right.
me, I actually think Amari Cooper is elite and doesn't get as much respect as he
So I definitely don't think he gets enough credit. It's funny because he does everything so well, but because he's not like just truly amazing in any one thing, it's easy to forget about him.
Right.
But yeah, just a very complete, all-around, well-rounded player.
I think so.
Yeah. I feel like people still. That's all right.
Yeah.
I feel like people still
days
think
with
about
the drops
that one
and-
season
yeah.
too.
Uh-huh.
It was like the one season after Carr broke his leg, and Carr didn't even look good, and then Cooper looked awful.
Yeah, a lot of drops.
Like all of a sudden, after being, I think, a Pro Bowler. the year
he would
before.
just disappear.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
He'd play the whole game and have, one catch for 5 yards, and it was.
I feel like
extremely
that
frustrating.
Cooper, for whatever reason, is still
Well,
kind of
people remember.
looms large in people's memories, even though he's proven he's still really good.
And he's still relatively young.
And he'd be a guy for me, especially like if he moved on from Dallas or they got rid of Gallup. If he went somewhere as a number one, I'd be all over Amari Cooper again, personally.
And personally, as much as we both like CD, I still think he is the number one there.
I do too.
Which is part of the reason why CD I think has a lot of success, because Amari is still drawing the number one corner. CD's gonna work a little more on the slide, get the easier targets. But yeah, I think just from a talent perspective, Amari is a very underrated player. Just
I forgot which way.
Do you have another sell? I think I have one still.
yeah.
All right, so I'll finish it up, and we'll stay on the Cowboys. I actually have Ezekiel Elliott as my other sell. I mean, the first thing is, we've kind of talked about how good Dak was, how great their receivers are, and mentioning it before too, how the league's shifting. It seems like teams are moving more and more away from running the ball consistently, and they're just all about throw, which the Cowboys should be with those weapons and Dak coming back. Not to mention, another thing we mentioned was money. And Zeke got paid big time, but the Cowboys still got a ton of good guys to pay, including Dak, and we all know what kind of money Dak's going to command. I feel like there's going to come a time where they look at their money and they say, you know what, is it really worth it to pay a running back this much when we're throwing the ball this much? I don't know. And that, that's projecting a lot, but at the same time, the other thing that worries me is the Cowboys' offensive line, which we've seen just get decimated by injuries year after year after year, and these guys aren't getting any younger. I mean, Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, Pro Bowlers, almost every year, but they're both struggling to even finish a season at this point. There's going to be a lot of turnover there, and it's not going to be as easy as it was for Zeke at the beginning. And even though he didn't play great last year, his name still carries a ton of weight. I'm sure a lot of people will just say, you can sell him on the fact that Zeke was, like second or third before Dak got hurt, I think.
Yeah.
So you could really push that, and then, again, you can get a huge haul for a guy like Zeke, similar to McCaffrey, where you could get picks, players, and move on from a guy who's, who knows what happens with these running backs
I just had an
anymore.
interesting thought, and this has nothing to do with fantasy, but what about Justin Fields for the Cowboys?
Oh.
Because I just keep thinking about Dak, and I'm not saying Dak's not a great quarterback, a great fantasy quarterback. He's not Russell Wilson. And they offered him Russell Wilson money. He turned it down. Now he's coming back from this horrific injury. You don't know if he can come back from that. Maybe just move on.
I gotta think. It's crazy we're still talking about him getting paid, but seeing the drop off that Cowboys offense had, I just think Jerry has to pay him.
But he offered him Russell Wilson money.
Yeah.
He turned it down. Don't tell me they didn't offer him money.
So I get it, but when your whole team doesn't respond, when Dak goes down, that's the time for the whole team to step up, and that just didn't happen in Dallas.
That's
Maybe,
very
I don't
true.
know.
I'd never seen a team that looked like they lost their leader.
But they were 1-4 with Dak. I know he had great stats, but he had great stats because they were so far behind. They were losing.
Right.
And
Yeah,
they
that's
go
very
back
true.
the year before. I'll never forget the Packers game like 2 years ago, late in the season, because Dak really kind of had some struggles that year, and it was a hot topic debate: is he a franchise quarterback?
Right.
And I remember for 3 quarters he looked awful against the Packers. The Packers went up big, and then in the 4th quarter he put up a bunch of numbers and almost came back. And the headlines the next day were like, Dak lights up the Packers defense, has a huge day. And I was thinking, he played 3 awful quarters of playing quarterback, and then in the 4th quarter when they're behind puts up some numbers and everybody's acting like he had a great day.
We saw it happen against the Browns this year. He
Yeah.
did not look good in the first half, and he lit us up. The worst defense in football, by the way, in the second half, and it was just like, oh man, Dak's incredible. And I've always kind of been on the fence with Dak anyways. I think he's good, not great. Does he deserve that money?
Yeah.
Maybe. No, I don't know.
The thing on my quarterbacks you can put in front of him.
I know, that's...
I think I can put 10 right off the top of my head.
Yeah, well, I've never been a big Dak guy anyways.
And I'm a big Dak guy. He's a great quarterback. Dak, you're a great quarterback.
I think he's a great player.
I think he's a great player. I think he's a good quarterback.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of good quarterbacks right now.
I can't think of 10. I think that's That's a bit much. Maybe 5.
Whoa.
Baker Mayfield or Dak Prescott?
I mean, that's tough.
I want the
after
guy
this
who's won a
weekend.
playoff game.
Oh.
Hey, I will say this past weekend, some of the most impressive throws I've
Yeah.
seen from Baker. Like, he was throwing dimes
Yeah.
out there.
Looks like a guy who finally got comfortable in an offense for
Yeah.
once,
Yeah.
huh?
Well,
And
would you
that
take
call.
Justin Herbert over Dak? I think you have to.
In fantasy?
No,
Or just
and
overall?
real NFL.
Some
In
get
real.
confused too, fantasy.
Yeah.
Real. I'm talking about
Maybe.
real football.
I feel like that's a maybe. I don't know.
Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
There's 2.
Well, yeah.
I mean, do I get Joe Burrow with that Dallas offense?
Well, I'm just
Pretty
saying,
sweet.
Joe Burrow doesn't have that. Russell Wilson. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, I'd take Dak at his age over those guys. We're talking Dynasty football.
Oh no, I'm talking about real NFL. Who's a better quarterback today?
Oh, well, yeah, I'd take Aaron Rodgers over Dak. I mean,
There's a lot.
Josh Allen.
I'd
Josh
take Matt
Allen.
Ryan over Dak.
I wouldn't.
For a game?
I'd take Dak. But that's my
tough.
point. That's my point.
Yeah. The
That's
point
my
is, no one's surefire convinced Dak's, $300 million quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
And neither is Jerry Jones, and that's who matters.
Well, Jerry
Right.
Jones was convinced. He offered him Russell Wilson money.
Yeah, it was over like 3 years, though.
It's $150 million. That
I love
was a
three.
big number. It was a huge
It was-
number.
I thought it was like a 3-year contract.
I think it was a 5-year.
So yeah, what's funny is I think it's weird as it sounds. Dallas was really trying to give him this 5-year deal, and
Right.
he wanted
He
like
wanted
a 4-year deal.
yeah.
Because
I
like the
remember
market's gonna reset,
Oh,
and then you
yeah,
can
right.
cash in bigger. Yeah, like it was weird.
That could be.
Yeah, it was something weird like
I
that.
remember that, yeah.
Well, back to his Zeke take real quick, and I hate to put this on Zeke too, but I said it with Derrick Henry. There's some injury concerns there.
Yeah.
For me with Zeke, I mean, the
Yeah.
guy's just always been
Right.
Mr. Healthy, always been available.
And
The carries, the amount of work. I am a little
Right.
concerned that
So-
he's next.
100% agree. One other small little thing like I like to point out with Zeke, and I hate to always bring up the off the field stuff, but so he's got a big contract, and one of the ways they can get out of it is if conduct detrimental to the team. I mean, we've seen suspensions, and he had a 6-game suspension. He's had some issues in the off seasons before, just in parades, just keeping his hands to himself. So that it's very real if they want to move on from him. That there would be a little incident that could just wash away as nothing,
Yeah.
or they can call it conduct detrimental to the team. They can trade him and have no negative cap from it.
I'll tell you what, it doesn't help that Tony Pollard looked like
As I
way
say,
better
yeah, we
behind
haven't
the
talked about
same
Tony
offensive
Pollard
line.
yet. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it says a lot to me too that Zeke, just looked like he could not care less once Dak went out. Ton of fumbles. He just looked disinterested, and Tony Pollard came in, looked fresh, was making
Yeah.
big plays. Not to say Zeke can't do that going forward, but
He just looked hungrier.
yeah,
Pollard did.
exactly.
yeah, he looked good.
It's like Zeke looks like a guy that got paid.
I gotta tell you, what
Yeah.
we just heard there is if you're on a contending team, go look and buy Zeke, because I think Zeke's got a couple more good years in him.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. but,
Yeah, it's funny because when we were talking about doing these shows, Zeke was a guy who I was thinking about on both. Sell him if you're rebuilding, buy him if you're a contender. I think there's still room for a couple good years, but maybe that's it.
I think he's one of those guys that can fit both
Yeah.
too. Just because he finished so bad too, that someone's probably frustrated enough to give him away for a little too cheap.
Yeah.
All right.